Picture this. The bishop is required to speak a precise formula before signing. Until he does, you are still the church's problem. You are a cloth buyer, mid-30s. You have spent the better part of a decade handling madder root and woad, your hands stained the color of dried bruises from alizarin and indigo precursors, your kidneys quietly failing under years of copper sulfate and iron mordant exposure. You are not a philosopher. You repeated something you read in a vernacular pamphlet about the soul. Two journeymen heard it. They told a confessor. Under inquisitorial procedure, two independent witnesses to the same heretical utterance constitute sufficient proof for arrest. No physical evidence required. That conversation in the dye house was legally equivalent to a signed confession. That was 18 months ago. You are sitting on a stone bench in the chapter house now, wrists roped to an iron ring in the wall. The bishop is holding a quill above an unsigned document. He has not signed it yet. While he hasn't, you technically belong to him. Oh, hey there. I'm your host, dead, precise, and here to walk you through one of the most procedurally meticulous ways the medieval world arranged for a human being to stop existing. What we are looking at today is relaxatio ad brachium saeculare, relaxation to the secular arm. That is the formal term. If you want to be really specific about what is killing you, 6 Latin words on a piece of parchment. Relinquimus curiae seculari. We relinquish you to the secular arm. You had abjured once before. 3 years ago, another proposition, another inquisitor, you recanted and walked. That was your mistake. A first-time heretic who abjures receives perpetual imprisonment. A relapsed heretic, meaning one who previously abjured and returned to heresy, cannot abjure again. The bishop had no discretion left. The moment your words were matched against the pre-catalogued condemned articles on the inquisitor's watch list, your case stopped being an inquiry and became a classification exercise. The paperwork was already written before you opened your mouth. Here is the mechanism. Canon sicut iniustum, formalized through the papal decree ad abolendum in 1184, prohibited clerics from shedding blood. Not from killing, from shedding blood specifically. This distinction is the entire architecture of what is about to happen to you. The Church needed a method of execution that produced no visible blood. Fire cauterizes as it kills. Dermal vessels seal ahead of the flame front. The theological loophole is satisfied while the body is destroyed completely. This system, this exact paperwork sequence, ran from 1184 through the 17th century. Over 500 years of identical documents. The document on that table reads, verbatim, "We relinquish you to the secular arm and earnestly beg it not to proceed to death or mutilation." That formulaic intercession was legally mandatory. The magistrate receiving it was legally obligated to burn you within 24 to 48 hours. Everyone in that room understood the sentence was the opposite of its literal words. The request for mercy was the death warrant. A cooperative condemned who publicly recanted at the last moment could receive a mercy, garroting before ignition. Manual neck compression causes loss of consciousness in 10 to 15 seconds, brain death in 4 to 6 minutes. The body chained to the stake would then be a corpse before the fire touched it. You are not going to recant. You already tried that once. Yeah, that option is gone. Now, the timeline. Step 1. The degradation ritual. Before the bishop can sign the writ of relaxation, your status must be formally stripped. You are not ordained, but the inquisitor's charge sheet required a symbolic degradation regardless. They removed your outer garments in reverse order of how they would have been conferred. Belt first, then shoes. The linen undershirt stays. Each removal has a Latin name and a spoken formula. The bishop's voice is flat and procedural throughout. He is reading from a folio on the lectern, not looking at you. This is important to note. He does not look at you during the stripping. You are a case file. You stopped being a person sometime around month 4 of detention. Step 2. The confession ratification failure. You already know this part from the inside. After the strappado sessions, where your wrists were bound behind your back and you were hoisted 6 to 8 feet and dropped short of the floor, arresting abruptly, both shoulder joints dislocating simultaneously as the anterior capsule tore. You gave a confession. The following day, without instruments present, you were required to ratify it freely. You did not ratify. Under the legal cap of 3 sessions, they found new pretexts. By the 3rd ratification session you signed. Your shoulders never recovered. 18 months later, in this chapter house, you cannot raise either arm above chest height. The rope around your wrists to the iron ring is not strictly necessary. You could not run. Step 3. The signing. The bishop speaks the required formula. He does not improvise. He reads it verbatim from the canon law folio because a deviation in wording would invalidate the instrument and require a new session. Then the quill touches the parchment. Your cardiovascular reserve at this moment is a fraction of what it was at arrest. 18 months of Mura's strictest attention, bread and water on alternating days, roughly 500 calories a day below maintenance, means you have lost somewhere between 15 and 25 pounds of lean mass. Your heart, asked to do something difficult, will not have much to offer. The wax seal is already prepared. The bishop presses it. He folds the document into thirds. He does not speak to you. Step 4. The threshold transfer. They walk you out through the chapter house door, across the precinct grass, to the low stone arch marking the boundary between ecclesiastical and civic ground. The secular officer is standing on the cobblestone side. His hand is extended. The bishop is standing on the grass side. The inquisitor is 5 paces behind, hands folded inside his sleeves. He has not spoken once during this entire proceeding. His presence was the paperwork. It still is. The bishop extends the folded document. The secular officer's fingers close around it. That is the moment. Not the fire, not the stake. This. The instant the parchment transfers hands under that arch, the church's jurisdiction ends. Crown jurisdiction begins. The church's hands are, technically, clean. Clean is doing a lot of work in that sentence. All right, but what does this actually feel like? Accounts from degraded clerics and condemned heretics in inquisitorial records describe the vestment removal as the most disorienting part of the entire proceeding. Not the torture, not the sentencing, the slow, sequential, named removal of each layer. Because each item taken carried a spoken formula explaining why it was being taken. You were told, in formal Latin, exactly what you were losing and why, article by article. Some survivors described it as a second trial conducted in reverse. You were being unmade in the same procedural language that had once conferred status. The moment the bishop's spoken formula ended and the quill moved, survivors describe a specific bodily sensation. A drop in the chest, not metaphorical, a physical drop, as though something load-bearing gave way. One condemned cleric from a 14th century French record described it as feeling the room change temperature without any actual change in temperature. When the writ left the bishop's hand, you were no longer standing under an arch. You were standing at a border you could not recross. The secular officer's grip on the parchment was not a gesture. It was a transfer of physical custody. Your body was now property under a different jurisdiction. The auto da fe crowd numbered in the hundreds. Your screams, once the pyre reached full combustion, would carry 200 to 400 meters in open air. The cloth workers and dyers in that crowd would recognize the smell of burning wool from your work clothes igniting before the fire reached skin. At 48 degrees Celsius, your nerve endings begin continuous firing. At 60 degrees Celsius, dermal proteins denature. At 70 degrees Celsius, full-thickness burns destroy the nerve layer entirely. There is a window of 90 seconds to 3 minutes of maximum pain before the sensory surface is gone. But the smoke comes first. A pyre 5 to 6 feet high envelops the condemned's face in dense smoke within 60 to 90 seconds of ignition. Your hemoglobin binds carbon monoxide 200 times more readily than oxygen. By the time your carboxyhemoglobin saturation climbs past 50%, in roughly 2 to 3 minutes of dense smoke inhalation, you have lost the ability to scream coherently. You, the cloth dyer who repeated something from a pamphlet, you are already gone before the fire reaches your torso. The formula, relinquimus curiae saeculari, appears in over 200 surviving inquisitorial sentences between 1250 and 1550. The specific wording was standardized precisely so that no bishop could claim he did not know what he was authorizing. The document's intercession begging for mercy was mandatory. And it was a lie that everyone was required to write and required to receive and required to act upon. Your property, the dyeing vats, mordant stocks, wool inventory, all tools of trade, was confiscated the moment the bishop signed. Your family was destitute before you reached the arch. A wood pyre rarely exceeds 900 degrees Celsius, far short of the 1400 degrees Celsius required for complete combustion. Recognizable long bone fragments survived. Secular authorities were required to scatter or river dump remains to prevent relic veneration. Your bones required a second disposal act. The church was not involved in that either. The file is closed. The case is transferred. You are, as of the signing, no longer our jurisdiction. Hit subscribe if you want to keep exploring the worst ways to go. I'll be here. I'm dead.